Happy Friday, everybody. We've made it through another week, and I wanted to change up my board a little bit. So I was wondering all night long last night, what can I do different than just asking questions every day? And so I have decided I am going to start throwing in some riddles. I remember in our classroom that we had some friends that really loved giving us riddles or giving us jokes, and then we had to figure out the answer. So it's Miss G's turn to give you guys some. So here's my question or my riddle for today, and in Monday's video I will tell you the answer if you have not figured it out. But please don't look it up on Google. I want you to really think about it and try to figure it out, okay? So, because I know the answer and I'm gonna giggle really hard when I tell you. Okay, so it's Figure It Out Friday. So, what has 3 feet but cannot walk? I want to tell you so bad. Okay, so figure that one out, and then you can email it to me or send it to me in Class Dojo or find me on Facebook and send it through Messenger, some way to get me the answer if you figure it out, or if you have a guess, and I'll let you know if that is incorrect or correct. Okay, so our next part of the book is called Chiaroscuro. I think I am pronouncing that right. Mrs. Sullivan, Liam's mom, sent me a message helping me learn to pronounce it. So thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. And she also wanted me to share that chiaroscuro in art means that it's the contrast between light and dark. So that is a fun fact for us for today. So thank you, Mrs. Sullivan, for sharing that with us. I would not have known that. So thank you. All right, so we are going to start the second part of the book. Yesterday it told us that, oh, sorry, I just saw somebody blowing leaves in the middle of the street. It kind of threw me off. Okay, so yesterday when we left off, they had convicted, if you will, Despereaux of the crimes that he committed, which were, sitting at the king's feet and letting Princess P touch him, and they don't know, the Mouse Council do not know that Despereaux spoke to her, and that is the #1 rule you do not break in the mouse world. You don't talk to humans. So they convicted him, or said, you did this, or do you feel sorry for it? They were going to let him go to the dungeon with a clean slate, like with a clear heart, knowing that he repented, apologized and tried to make it better. But they were still going to send him no matter what. But they were trying to let him feel better about it and say, yes, I understand I did it wrong. But he did not. He said, no, I do not apologize for the way I feel. I love the princess, and I'm going to honor her and protect her just like a knight would in a fairy tale. So he goes to the dungeon, and on the way he figures out that one of the hooded guards taking him to the dungeon, or to the basement with all the rats, is his brother. His own brother is leading him. And he begs his brother to please let me out. I won't, come around you guys. I'll live my own life away from all of you, and if I get caught, I get caught. But he says no, and he takes him on with the other hooded mouse. So his own brother is leading him to what is supposed to be death. So they kick him down the stairs, and he, flop, 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 which, by the way, Grayson did down our stairs today. And he's okay, by the way, and we all laughed afterwards, and it was just like, I was sitting here, and I know this is kind of a sidetrack story. So I was sitting here working on some stuff, and I look over because my stairs are right over here, and I see Grayson, and in like a couple more seconds I don't see Grayson, and I hear a thump thump thump, but I also see an arm fly, and then I see a foot fly. It was the funniest thing. He's okay though. He laughed, and all is well. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So the mice, and one of them is his brother, Despereaux's brother, they kick Despereaux down the stairs, and when he gets to the bottom, it is completely pitch black. It is so dark down there. He says that he even puts his hand up in front of his face, and he cannot see it. Now there's a man driving a lawnmower down the street. Interesting. Okay, so That completely threw me off. Okay, so he gets down there and he starts talking and he can hear himself echo. And so he's trying to make himself feel better by hearing his own voice in the silence. So he says, once upon a time. And the next thing he knows, there is a man. And a man is picking him up and his name is George. And he says, usually every other mouse that comes down here is destined to die by the rats. But I am going to save this little mouse with the red thread who is destined to die by the rats because he is going to tell me a story. And that is where we left off, starting the second part of the book, that the Despereaux off over here with George and he's telling a story. So now we are going to start a new part and it says it is about a rat. So it's about one of the rats that's down in the basement or the dungeon or the, whatever we want to call this place. And so this part of the story is called Chiaroscuro. So here we go. I'm going to read 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 today. I should be able to read all 5. Okay, so chapter 16, Blinded by the Light. As our story continues, reader, we must go backward in time to the birth of a rat named Chiaroscuro and called Riscuro. A rat born into the filth and darkness of the dungeon, several years before the mouse Despereaux was born upstairs in the light. So here we have, just like Mrs. Sullivan said, the contrast between dark and light. We have the dark, we have the rat, we have Chiaroscuro, also called Riscuro. I think that's how they're going to refer to him in the book. Instead of saying the whole Chiaroscuro, they're just going to refer to him as Riscuro, like it for short. So we have him in darkness, and then we have Despereaux from the light, from upstairs. So we're going to see differences between them, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let's see. Reader, do you know the definition of the word chiaroscuro? If you look in your dictionary, you will find that it is the arrangement of light and dark, darkness and light together. Rats do not care for light. Riscuro's parents were having a bit of fun when they named their son. Rats have a sense of humor. Rats, in fact, think that life is very funny. They are right, reader. They are right. In this case of Chiaroscuro, however, the joke had a hint of prophecy to it, for it happened when Riscuro was a very young rat. He came upon a great length of rope on the dungeon floor. "Ah, what have we here?" said Riscuro. Being a rat, he immediately began to nibble at the rope. "Stop that!" boomed a voice, and a great hand came out of the darkness and picked up the rat by its tail and held him suspended upside down. So who could that be? "Were you nibbling on Gregory's rope, rat?" "Who wants to know?" said Riscuro. Even upside down, he was still a rat. "Oh, you are a smart-alecky rat. You smart-alecky rat, nibbling on Gregory's rope. Gregory will teach you to mess with his rope." And keeping Riscuro upside down, Gregory lit a match with the nail of his thumb and then held a brilliant flame right in Riscuro's face. "Ah!" said Riscuro, and he pulled his head back and away from the light. But alas, he did not close his eyes, and the flame exploded around him and danced inside of him. "Has no one told you the rules?" said Gregory. "What rules?" "Gregory's rope, rat, is off limits." "So, apologize for chewing on Gregory's rope." "I will not," said Riscuro. "Apologize." "No." "Oh, you filthy rat," said Gregory. "You black-souled thing. Gregory has had it with you rats." And he held the match closer to Riscuro's face, and a terrible smell of burnt whiskers rose up around the jailer and the rat. And then the match went out, and Gregory released Riscuro's tail. He flung back into the darkness. "Do not ever touch Gregory's rope again, or you will be sorry." Riscuro sat on the dungeon floor. The whiskers on the left side of his face were gone. His heart was beating hard. And though the light from the match had disappeared, it danced still before the rat's eyes, even when he closed them. "Light," he said out loud, and then he whispered the word again. "Light." From that moment forward, Riscuro showed an abnormal, inordinate interest in illumination of all sorts. He was always, in the darkness of the dungeon, on the lookout for light. The smallest glimmer, the tiniest shimmer. His rat soul longed inexplicably for it. He began to think that light was the only thing that gave life meaning, and he despaired that he was given so little of it. He finally voiced this sentiment to a friend, a very old one-eared rat named Botticelli Rimorso. "I think," said Chiaroscuro, "the meaning of life is light." "Light," said Botticelli. "You kill me. Light has nothing to do with it." "What does it mean then?" said Chiaroscuro. "The meaning of life," said Botticelli, "is suffering, specifically the suffering of others. Prisoners, for instance. Reducing a prisoner to weeping and wailing and begging is a delightful way to invest your existence with meaning." As he spoke, Botticelli swung from one extraordinary long nail of his right front paw a heart-shaped locket. He had taken the locket from a prisoner and hung it on a thin braided rope. Whenever Botticelli spoke, the locket moved. Back and forth it swung. "Are you listening?" Botticelli said to Chiaroscuro. "I'm listening." "Good," said Botticelli. "Do as I say, and your life will be full of meaning. This is how to torture a prisoner. First, you must convince him that you are a friend. Listen to him, encourage him to confess his sins, and when the time is right, talk to him. Tell him what he wants to hear. Tell him, for instance, that you will forgive him. This is a wonderful joke to play upon a prisoner, to promise forgiveness." "Why?" said Chiaroscuro. His eyes went back and forth, following the locket. "Because," said Botticelli, "you will promise it. Ha! But you will never grant it. You gain his trust, and then you deny him. You refuse to offer the very thing he wants: forgiveness, freedom, friendship, whatever his heart most desires, you withhold." At this point in his lecture, Botticelli laughed so hard that he had to sit down and catch his breath. The locket swayed slowly back and forth, and then stopped altogether. "Ha!" said Botticelli. "Ha, ha, ha! You gain his trust, you refuse him, and ha, ha! You become what he knew you were all along. What you knew you were all along. Not a friend, not a confessor, not a forgiver, but, ha, 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 a rat." Botticelli wiped his eyes and shook his head and sighed a sigh of great contentment. He set the locket in motion again. At that point, it is most effective to run back and forth over the prisoner's feet, inducing physical terror along with emotional sort. "Oh," he said, "it is such a lovely game, such a lovely game. And is just absolutely chock full of meaning." "Well, I would like very much to torture a prisoner," said Chiaroscuro. "I would like to make someone suffer." "Your time will come," said Botticelli. "Currently, all the prisoners are spoken for, but another prisoner will arrive sooner or later." "How do I know this to be true?" "Because, Chiaroscuro, thankfully, there is evil in this world, and the presence of evil guarantees the existence of prisoners." "So soon there will be a prisoner for me?" "Yes," said Botticelli Rimorso. "Yes, I'm looking forward to it." "Ha ha ha! Of course you're looking forward to it. You're looking forward to it because you're a rat, a real rat." "Yeah," said Chiaroscuro, "I'm a real rat." "Concerned not at all with light." "Concerned not at all with light," repeated Chiaroscuro, and Botticelli laughed again and shook his head. The locket, suspended from the long nail on his paw, swung back and forth, back and forth. "You, my young friend, are a rat." "Exactly. Yes. Evil, prisoners, rats, suffering. It all fits together so neatly, so sweetly. Oh, it's a lovely world, a lovely, dark world." Chapter 17. Small Comforts. Not long after this conversation between Botticelli and Chiaroscuro, a prisoner did arrive. The dungeon door slammed, and two rats watched a man being led by a king's soldier down the stairs into the dungeon. "Excellent," whispered Botticelli. "This one is yours." Chiaroscuro looked at the man closely. "I will make him suffer," he said. But as he stared up at the man, the door to the dungeon was suddenly flung open, and a thick and brilliant shaft of afternoon light cut into the dark of the dungeon. Ah, said Botticelli. He covered his eyes with one paw. Riscuro, however, stared directly into the light. Reader, this is important. That rat called Chiaroscuro did not look away. He let that light from the upstairs world enter him and fill him, and he gasped aloud with the wonder of it. Give him his small comforts, shouted a voice at the top of the stairs, and a red cloth was thrown into the light. The cloth hung suspended for a moment, bright red and glowing, and then the door was slammed shut again, and the light disappeared, and the cloth fell to the floor. It was Gregory the jailer who bent to pick it up. Go on, the old man said as he held the cloth out to the prisoner. Take it. You'll need every last bit of warmth down here. And so the prisoner took the cloth and draped it around his shoulders as if it were a cloak. And the soldier of the king said, Right then, Gregory, he's all yours. And the soldier turned and went back up the steps and opened the door to the outside world, and some small light leaked in before he closed the door behind him. Did you see that? Riscuro said to Botticelli. Hideously ugly, said Botticelli. Ridiculous. What can they possibly mean by letting all that light in at once? Don't they know this is a dungeon? It was beautiful, said Riscuro. No, said Botticelli. No. He looked at Riscuro intently. Not beautiful. No. I must see more light. I must see all of it, said Riscuro. I must go upstairs. Botticelli sighed. Who cares about the light? Your obsession with it is tiresome. Listen, we are rats. Rats. We don't like light. We're about the darkness. We're about suffering. But, said Riscuro, upstairs. No buts, said Botticelli. No buts. None. Rats do not go upstairs. Upstairs is the domain of mice. He took the locket from around his neck. What, he said, swinging it back and forth, is this rope made of? Whiskers. The whiskers of who? Mice. And here's a picture, and it's showing Riscuro and Botticelli. So I believe this one is Riscuro and this one's Botticelli, because he's all like, ooh, look at the light. And he's like, oh, no, that's gross. Okay. Exactly. And who lives upstairs? Mice. Exactly. Mice. Botticelli turned his head and spat on the floor. Mice are nothing but little packages of blood and bones, afraid of everything. They are despicable, laughable, the opposite of everything we strive to be. Do you want to live in their world? Riscuro looked up, past Botticelli, to the delicious sliver of light that shone from underneath the door, and he said nothing. Listen, said Botticelli, this is what you should do. Go and torture the prisoner. Go and take the red cloth from him. The cloth will satisfy your cravings for something from that world, but do not go up into that light. You will regret it. And as he spoke, the locket swung back and forth, back and forth. You do not belong in that world. You are a rat. A rat. Say it with me. A rat, said Riscuro. Ah, but you're cheating. You must say, I am a rat. Smiling his slow smile at Riscuro. I am a rat, said Riscuro. Again, said Botticelli, swinging his locket. I am a rat. Exactly, said Botticelli. A rat is a rat is a rat. End of story. World without end. Amen. Yes, said Riscuro. Amen. I'm a rat. He closed his eyes. He saw again the red cloth spinning against the backdrop of gold. And he told himself, reader, that it was the cloth that he desired and not the light. Chapter 18. Confessions. Riscuro went, as Botticelli told him he must, to torment the new prisoner and to take the red cloth from him. The man was sitting with his legs stretched out straight in front of him, chained to the floor. The red cloth was still draped over his shoulders. Riscuro squeezed through the bars and crept slowly over the damp, weeping stones of the cellar floor. When he was close to the man, he said, Ah, welcome, welcome. We are delighted to have you. The man lit a match and looked at Riscuro. Riscuro stared longingly into the light. Go on, said the prisoner, and he waved a hand in the direction of Riscuro, and the match went out. You're nothing but a rat. I am, said Chiaroscuro, exactly that, a rat, and allow me to congratulate you on your very astute powers of observation. What do you want, rat? What do I want? Nothing for my sake, that is. I have come for you. I have come to keep you company here in the dark. And he crawled closer to the man. I don't need the company of a rat. Oh, but what about the solace of a sympathetic ear? Do you need that? Huh? Would you like to confess your sins? To a rat? Are you kidding? You are. Come now, said Riskiro, close your eyes. Pretend that I am not a rat. Pretend that I am nothing but a voice in the darkness, a voice that cares. The prisoner closed his eyes. All right, he said, I'll tell you, but I'm telling you because there ain't no point in not. No point in keeping secrets from a dirty little rat. I am in no desperate way that I need to lie to a rat. The man cleared his throat. I am here for stealing 6 cows, 2 jerseys, and 4 Guernseys. Cow theft. That's my crime. He opened his eyes and stared into the darkness, and then he laughed, and he closed his eyes again. Oh, but there's something else I've done many years ago. Another crime, and they don't even know of it. Go on, said Riskiro softly, and he crept closer. He allowed one paw to touch the magical red cloth. I traded my girl, my own daughter, for this red tablecloth, and for a hen, and for a handful of cigarettes. Tisk, 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 said Riskiro. He was not alarmed to hear of such hideous things. His parents, after all, had not much cared for him, and certainly if there were any profit in it, they would have sold him. And then, too, Botticelli Rimorso, one lazy Sunday afternoon, had recited from memory all the confessions he had heard from prisoners. What humans were capable of came as no surprise to Riskiro. And then, said the man. And then, encouraged Riskiro. And then I done the worst thing of all. I walked away from her, and she was crying and calling out for me, and I didn't even look back. I didn't. Oh, Lord, I kept walking. The prisoner cleared his throat, and he sniffed. Said Riskiro. Yes, I see. And by now he was standing so that all 4 of his paws were touching the red cloth. Do you find comfort in this cloth that you sold your child for? It's warm, said the man. Was it worth your child? I like the color of it. Does the cloth remind you of what you've done wrong? It does, the prisoner said, and he sniffed. It does. Well, allow me to ease your burden, said Riskiro, and he stood on his hind legs and bowed at the waist. I will take this reminder of your sin from you, he said, and the rat took a hold of the tablecloth in his strong teeth and pulled it off the shoulders of the man. Hey, see here, I want that back. But Riskiro, reader, was quick, and he pulled the tablecloth through the bars of the cell, whoosh, like a magic trick, only in reverse. Hey, shouted the prisoner, bring that back. It's all I've got. Yeah, said Riskiro, and that is exactly why I must have it. Oh, you dirty rat, shouted the prisoner. Yes, said Riskiro, that is right. That is the most accurate. And he left the man and dragged the tablecloth back to his nest and considered it. What a disappointment it was. Looking at it, Riskiro knew that Botticelli was wrong. What Riskiro wanted, what he needed, was not the cloth, but the light that had shone behind it. He wanted to be filled, flooded, blinded again by the light, and for that, reader, the rat knew that he must go upstairs. Chapter 19. Light, light everywhere. Imagine, if you will, having spent the whole of your life in the dungeon. Imagine that late one spring day you step out of the dark and into a world of bright windows and polished floors, winking copper pots, shining suits of armor, and tapestries sewn in gold. Imagine. And while you're imagining these things, imagine this too. Imagine that at the same time the rat steps from the dungeon and into the castle, a mouse is being born upstairs. A mouse, reader, who is destined to meet this light bedazzled rat. But that meeting will occur much later, and for now the rat is nothing but happy, delighted, amazed to find himself standing in so much light. I, said Riskiro, spinning dizzily from one bright thing to the next, I will never leave. No, never. I will never go back to the dungeon. Why would I? I would never torture another prisoner. It is here that I belong. The rat waltzed happily from one room to another until he found himself at the door to the banquet hall. He looked inside and saw gathered there King Philip, Queen Rosemary, and the Princess P, 20 noble people, a juggler, 4 minstrels, and the king's men. The party, reader, was a sight for the rat's eyes. Chiaroscuro had never seen happy people. He had known only the miserable ones. Gregory the jailer and those who were consigned to his domain did not laugh or smile or clink glasses with the person sitting next to them. Chiaroscuro was enchanted. Everything glittered, everything. The gold spoons on the table and the jingle bells on the juggler's cap, the strings on the guitars, and the crowns on the king and queen's heads. And the little princess, how lovely she was. How much like light itself. Her gown was covered in sequins that winked and glimmered at the rat, and when she laughed, and she laughed often, everything around her seemed to glow brighter. "Oh, really," said Chiaroscuro, "this is too extraordinary. This is too wonderful. I must tell Botticelli that he was wrong. Suffering is not the answer. Light is the answer." And he made his way into the banquet hall. He lifted his tail off the ground and held it at an angle and marched in time to the music that was being played on the guitars. The rat, reader, invited himself to the party. Okay, so let's pause there for a second. How do you think they're going to react if they see Chiaroscuro walking into this party, like the humans? How do you think they're going to react? If you were having a birthday party and you saw a rat just come into the room, what would you do? So let's read chapter 20 and find out. And this will be our last chapter for today. A view from a chandelier. There was in the banquet hall a most beautiful and ornate chandelier. The crystals that hung from it caught the light of the candles on the table and the light from the face of the laughing princess. They danced to the rhythm of the music, swaying back and forth, twinkling and beckoning. And what better place to view all of this glory, all of this beauty? There was so much laughing and singing and juggling that no one noticed as Chiaroscuro crawled up the table leg and onto the table, and from there flung himself onto the lowest branch of the chandelier. Hanging by one paw, he swung back and forth, admiring the spectacle below him, the smells of the food, the sound of the music, and the light, the light, the light. Amazing, unbelievable. Chiaroscuro smiled and shook his head. Unfortunately, a rat can hang from a chandelier for only so long before he's discovered, and this would be true even at the loudest party. Reader, do you know who it was that spotted him? You're right, the sharp-eyed Princess P. "A rat!" she shouted. "A rat is hanging from the chandelier!" The party, as I have noted, was loud, and the music and singing was loud. The people were laughing and eating. The man with the jingle cap was juggling and jiggling. No one, in the midst of all this merriment, heard the P. No one except for Chiaroscuro. Rat. He had never before been aware of what an ugly word it was. Rat. In the middle of all the beauty, it immediately became clear that it was an extremely distasteful syllable. Rat. A curse, an insult, a word totally without light. And not until he heard it from the mouth of the princess did Chiaroscuro realize that he did not like being a rat, that he did not want to be a rat. This revelation hit Chiaroscuro with such a force that it made him lose his grip on the chandelier. The rat, reader, fell. And alas, he fell right, directly into the queen's bowl of soup. And here is a picture, and there's a party going on below, and there's Chiaroscuro hanging from the bottom of that chandelier, and everybody's looking up at him now. So imagine you're having dinner and a rat falls into your mom's bowl of soup. Oh my goodness, can you even imagine? I can tell you, that bowl of soup would go flying for sure. And Miss G, I would go flying across the room too. Okay, so don't forget that it is Figure It Out Friday, and you're going to figure out that riddle and send me an email or a dojo message or a Facebook message and tell me what you think the answer is. So what has 3 feet but cannot walk? I can't wait to see what you think it is. And then on Monday, I will read starting with chapter 21, and I will tell you what the answer to that riddle is and maybe give you another one. Okay, I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Wash your hands. Stay safe and healthy. Bye.